Sup nerds, I'm Tom.
I'm Wes.
And we're taking a look at Kepler 3042, and if you didn't know that, then you probably should have read the title of this video.
Kepler 3042, or Kepler, as we're going to call it the rest of this video.
Right, because actually around the same time, Kepler 3042 came out, Pulsar 2840
It's right there.
And Blade Runner 2049, the movie. Like, seriously, what did all three of you guys plan this? I'm certain the two board games and a full movie were just planned by three people.
So, mentioning Pulsar, we're not going to compare the two a lot, but I will say the only similarities is that they're in space and that the name is a word with numbers. Like, other than
And that they're kind of Euro-ish.
like
Like,
Euro-ish,
other
but
than
like
that.
they are so different.
Yeah, so if, for whatever reason, you saw that kind of like I did, was like, oh, these two games came out at the same time, but they're not. They're not.
So Kepler is very much a technology advancing kind of move, not really area control, but you're moving around the board, claiming territories.
So you're searching. There's all the tokens are face down, and you're searching. So there's a little bit of RNG in there, and there is a deck from which we draw a sort of event, or like not just a random event that happens, but kind of like if you are here on this track, or if you do this, you'll get that.
And I do like that the event doesn't happen like immediately. It's at the end of this round, this is going to happen. I think a lot of games have that deck where they're like, it's like a weather deck. Like, this round, this happens. Or this round, these people are stronger. This is very much at the end of this round, X is going to happen. So it can make you say, oh, whoever's lowest in that track. I was going to do something to bump me up on that track, but maybe I don't want to do that anymore to get that bonus. Or maybe I'm going to fight harder to get ahead. Or maybe you're going to say, it's not really worth the victory that I'm going to get from that. I'm going to do what I'm going to do anyway.
So you can plan for it. It's not just a random event that happens. You can plan. I mean, sometimes you can't. Sometimes it's like the person who's farthest ahead on this track. You're like, well, you're 8 spaces ahead. So.
Or the person who's the lowest, and you're like, I'm in first place. There's no way. But for the most part, I do like that you can prepare for it, and that you're not blindsided, and you never feel like, well, you only won because that card came up, and it really shot you ahead.
And we're bringing that up as like our very first point because this game, with the exception of those two things, the planets being face down and the cards that get drawn every single turn, everything else is really, really tight. Those are the only instances of RNG, which is what we call random number generators, like rolling a die, some form of randomness in the game. Other than that, everything else is really specific. It's all about the engine that you build and the way you spend your resources and the order in which you choose your actions and whether it's really worth it to burn a resource to do this bonus action and how far, which technology do I want to advance first. So it can kind of suffer from somebody who has played before, has a little bit of a leg up. It's not like, there are the best ways of doing it.
What game doesn't?
No, I mean that not.
But I do see you saying.
No game would to this degree, to where, look, clearly you need to move. So don't keep that at 0 for forever. I mean, you don't have to, but it's a pretty good idea. So at the very least, this is one of those games that'll come with a little bit of explanation at the very beginning. Like, look, here's the rules, but also, let's just be honest. Look, you're going to want this and you're going to want that. Make sense?
And that does kind of lead me into the next thing I want to talk about is setting up this game. The first thing I noticed was, your player areas are kind of, a lot of space on the table. You have, 3 different boards down as you get cards.
You have 2 boards and one's reference.
Yeah, it's
technically you don't need
it, but you do have 3 boards in your play area. True. And that's when you're looking at the game. Typically games, the bulk of the game is on the board. And you can do stuff in your player area, but the bulk of the game is here. In this game, that's kind of not.
Yeah,
there is movement and you're trying to discover these planets out here on the board, but so much of the game happens on your technology board where you're trying to upgrade the 5 different tracks and the action that you have to take to go there, and you take the bonus actions to do other stuff. I had entire turns where the board didn't matter at all to me. I just was focusing in my own player area.
Now, granted, there aren't, that's not unique to this game where there are sections of the game that you could kind of ignore and really focus on something else. Like in Terraforming Mars, you could never plant, and you could possibly not plant anything on Mars and really just build up the engine that you get with the cards and stuff on your board.
Or in Anachrony, you also have where you're building your own, it's a worker placement where you're building your own spaces.
But it's just, in no other game is your player board so much. Yeah, I think really it's just the table space, because not only, you're right, if we do count that reference board as part of it, you have your Earth card and you have the
All
card, the
your
planets that you get. So okay, I guess like in a way I'm rescinding the earlier thing I said, but also you.
But with that, I think that does take away so much of the player interaction. I think that the bulk of the player interaction in this game is like racing to see who can get somewhere first, because on the point track there's like, oh well, the first person here gets this victory point, which like is kind of good because there's a few victory points there. So I feel like it's nice to get them.
You're talking about just the tokens that are sitting there. You also do get victory points for being higher up in the tracks in general.
True, but as far as racing there,
as far as getting it,
you getting there
instead of somebody else.
first, you being doesn't really affect the points I am if you're ahead of me, but it's just the getting the victory points for getting there first or being the highest at the end of the round, where that's kind of the only. And then obviously like taking the planets out here, because once I claim a planet, you can't claim it. That's kind of the end of the player interaction.
Which isn't different from Eurogames, let's be honest.
No,
I mean, there aren't a lot of Eurogames that have a lot of player interaction, but just to say, this is one of them. So I just kind of want to forewarn you that that's a potential negative. And I guess the other negative that I could have for it is the graphic design on it does kind of leave something to be desired.
Yeah.
It's definitely not terrible. We've seen much worse. But like, it could be a little bit better. This was a Kickstarter game that Renegade kind of took over. I don't think they reprinted it so much as they're handling distribution for this in the States. So they redid the art on the box and the rule book. And I've seen older pictures of the game, and the older art. This is better, but the actual components and everything didn't really get that much of a vamp. If they ever did a true Kepler, second edition, then they could do that. I would like to see that.
And I do I don't know how much they could do to the board, like make the artwork different, but like there's not enough going on the board. I think that just it's kind of the nature of the game that there's not a lot going on the board. It's just you need to travel a large distance to get to the next planet, and in space there isn't anything between them.
I mean, but look at Twilight Imperium or something. They just add little graphic designy elements to just kind of make things pop, and they could certainly do that here. And I do agree. Like that, I guess this is kind of coupled in with that with the negative is that the planets are kind of small and the spaces you move are really small, so the board just looks like a huge grid and like you're moving tiny. It is mechanically in that way so because when you move up your movement track, you go from moving 1, 3, 6, and 9. You're still moving 1 or moving 9. But yeah, that's a huge jump. It's made to be that way, but I would almost be okay with it being 1, 2, 5, 7 or something if it meant we could shrink, if it meant we could make these hexes a little bit bigger and just be a little bit more pleasing to the eye.
Yeah, honestly, it's not something that really bothers me that much. I can see it being something that would be hard to convince someone to play it, because it looks a little drab.
If they start off going, oh, that looks dumb, you have to go, whoa,
so it's not a game that someone's going to walk by and oh my gosh, I have to sit here and look at this game because there's all these minis and all this artwork and it's colorful. But it doesn't bother me. Once you're playing the game, it didn't take away from the game at all for me.
Now let's get into the good stuff.
So the first good thing I want to talk about is something that I don't know if it's been done before. It possibly has, but it was kind of unique to me is how this game handles resources. And it kind of ties back to player interaction where it limited the player interaction even more, but in an interesting way. So now I'm going to tell you what I'm talking about. The resources, you are limited to these are the resources available to this player. And everyone's the same. It's not like you're playing as this character, you get an extra matter. So everyone has the exact same number of matter, antimatter, and energy available to them. And you start with some, and some of it is in your store. And so you can never and I think the worst is Splendor. I have all the blue tiles, and you can't have any of the blue tiles, and I'm not going to spend these blue tiles because I know you want them. That isn't here at all, because what I have is only for me, and they do have a really cool mechanic where you can burn that resource, meaning you spend it from the storage area, but it's no longer available to you to do, and you get to do extra bonus actions that can be really powerful, and if you use it right, it's totally worth it. But if you use them up too early in the game, then you're stuck I don't have enough matter left available to me
to in your supply.
Yeah, to even terraform this planet. I have to have 4 matter. I only have 3 left available to me.
Yeah, you have 3 different piles. You have this is this is my resources, this is the stuff that's available, and this is what has been burned. That was interesting to me because I was almost thinking like, does that make it better or not? Like it's different and it's interesting, but I was wondering like, but the fact that you have to burn a resource in order to use your double actions it would be more cutthroat if it was a pile in the middle.
Yeah.
But it would also
like, screw you guys, I'm gonna burn all this to do stuff.
But because it's so tight.
Yeah.
Again, every decision, like burning that resource is a really big deal. It is. Like, again, every little thing I look at, I'm like, wait, I need this to get that, and I need that to get this, and this gets me that one. Like, you're never like, plentiful and just full of resources. I have everything.
Yeah.
You're always like, I have exactly what I need. It's efficiency. That's the word I use. It's efficiency. So I guess you would get more butthurt, and you would be like angry, and you'd be like, really, this guy's just burning everything so he gets extra actions. That's unfair. I bet you that's something they play tested. That they realized, like, you just need your own thing, and when you burn it, that's on you, And
it helps make the game thinkier. I don't think that the burn mechanic would work if you didn't have those individual resources, and it makes you just judge those decisions.
I was actually just thinking of one thing. If they do, I say they do, a second edition, they could have where the player boards are different. Maybe not even like specifically like special player powers, but just like the actions are put in different spots. Because when you put your action token, I'm going to do this action. It's this and this bonus action are the ones that I have available to me. I mean, but again, because it's so tight and it's so efficient, maybe those things are placed where they are for very specific reasons.
And
but
I think they are somewhat thematically placed. Like if you take the move a ship, it lets you buy an extra ship or move a ship twice.
I'm just saying that's something to think.
It's something
I would like to see it. I would also like to see, instead of cubes, they're shaped like things.
Any game with a cube, which Euro games are abundant with those, and I think us growing up on Ameritrash games in our gaming career, like we've kind of gotten spoiled, especially with games that have like resource packs of like
like the Meat and Wood and Champions of Midgard.
That when we see cubes, we're like, oh, it could have been so much more.
Cubes.
And even like the first player token is just like a ship token, and I'm like, they could have made that a mini. And I do think that all of this is building up to probably my favorite part about this game, which is the technology board. Oh, yeah. And I really like the upgrading technology mechanic in games. I've played a lot, Civilization has upgrading your mechanics, Progress Evolution of Technology, more games.
I was wondering how many are you going to come out, because you were like, others, the second you did this, I saw it in your face, you were like, oh no, think of them fast.
So upgrading technology track, I really like it, especially because in this game, I'm sure if you really tried hard and you played this game a bunch and you're master at it, you could maybe get almost all of them maxed out all the way, but it's going to be super hard. And it is one of those where like you're so close and they're like, because it's round based, not like victory points or anything, you're like, okay, I can do this and this and this. No, I need one more turn. Turn.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because it's round based. You're going to have 16 rounds. And I was like, 16 rounds? That's so many. I can do so many things.
Especially our first playthrough, we were like, it starts slow. And we're like, we have to do 16 rounds of this?
But that's true. It is the first couple of rounds.
Once you get like
you're
round
really
10,
getting your footing.
It's like going like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you're thinking like, there's not enough rounds. I need 30. We should play it where you go through the thing twice, which I guess would be fun. I mean, I don't know. We probably have to have more ship token
and more colonization things, and twice as many boards. And
but again, that's just speaking to how efficient this game is forcing you to be. Because you really, I kind of disagree with you. I don't think you can unless that's all you do is push forward the technologies. Which really, like, why would you push forward the movement technology if all you're doing is pushing forward the technology and you don't even have a ship to move? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The point is, it's really, really efficient. And you have to, every decision you make matters. Sure, it's slow at first, but you are kind of building on those decisions. And, like even Aaron was like, I landed on this planet when really I should have landed on that planet, because in order to like leave a planet, you really have to like pull back your ship and start it from somewhere else. You can't just decide to move over a couple spaces. Everything is really, really tight. So overall, what does Tom think of Kepler? I actually really like it, and I didn't like it all that much when I first sat down to play it because it does have a little bit of, a slow going the first couple of rounds. And those negatives that I said, those were like my first, I had the problem doing this, judging a book by its cover thing, where like if I didn't like the art of a game, or if the theme or something, I was just like, I'm not going to like that game, and I've recently, it's been something I've had to like get over. Be like, no, just try it and be completely objective and really, really feel out if you enjoyed that time. And by the end of the game, it helps that I won, but I was like, man, that was really good. But it's probably a game that I guess isn't going to be for everybody for those things. Well, I said those things could be potential negatives. They could be potential negatives for you. If you're like, no, I really want the art to be like amazing in my game, or I really want, the to just feel like I have tons and tons of resources and decisions don't matter. I can be wacky and crazy. Then yeah, that's not really what it is. But it for what it is, for a really tight Euro, for something that makes you feel like you're a scientist, for bum rushing and racing towards all the other people. That's kind of the most interaction that you have with people is to race. To get stuff done before them. It pulls it off really well. It does take up a lot of table space, and I would love to see a second edition of it. But at the end of the day, in the category of Euros, I think they knocked it out of the park for this.
I want to start by saying that whenever I hear Tom say, you feel like a scientist, I imagine him with like a lab coat and beakers, like, oh, I'm a scientist.
Like the dog meme. I feel like a scientist because, again, every single little step is pre-calculated. It matters a whole lot. Everything is based off of something else. It's not just like, oh, let's see if that happens. You really, really think about it.
So there's no beakers and like acid and
of course there's going to be some beakers.
I think Tom said it really well, that the game, it's not going to be for everyone. And I think that, we're still getting more and more accustomed to Euros. I'm having to get used to that playthrough of this playthrough doesn't matter, we're just figuring it out. Because one of my favorite kind of games is things like Tiny Epic Quest. Like, open world, you sit down and just do whatever you want, and whoever wins, wins. Like, I love that. That appeals to me. Like, let's sit down and just play, and we'll figure things out as we go, and all this stuff. This is not a game that's like that. You need to know every single thing. You need to know how the game ends. You need to know what's in that event deck. You need to know how the different planets interact. You need to know how final scoring goes before you do anything, which isn't a bad thing. I do enjoy that. It's just something I'm getting a little used to.
It's just for a specific demographic.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is something that, like, in my first initial opinion of this, I do have to remind myself of, like, don't judge it during round 2 of your first gameplay. Wait until you've played 2, 3, 4, 30 games. We've played 30 games of this. This is a good game, though, fitting that, like, mid-level Euro feel. And again, we're saying we're liking Euros more and more. I've played Euros that I don't like and I don't ever care to play again. This isn't one of those. When I want that Euro itch scratched, this is going to be one of the games that I reach for.
And if any of what we were talking about sounds interesting to you, there will be a purchase link in the description box down below.
And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe so you'll never be bored.
It's your copy, right?
Buy this ship, and then I'm going to do this to get the resources back so I can...
It's like I can tell you were like, come on, finish now.